Alright guys, TacticalRab back again today. I hope you are all doing well and enjoying your day so far, and a very interesting topic to run through today. JCap, the coach of Los Angeles Thieves, was on the Bakery podcast not too long ago discussing the fact that, look, snaking right now is not in the best state. He's very frustrated with players that do it. In the first week of Stage 2, didn't really seem to be too much of an issue, but he says that, look, the players are getting so frustrated with it that if it continues going forwards, they are threatening to break gentlemen's agreements and start bringing out AKs and such to get this shut down, because for many years in Call of Duty, snaking has not been a thing. Now it is here back in force, and well, the players certainly not particularly happy about it, especially a certain few, which maybe we can guess who they might be. Intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below. Like if you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe if you are new, as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. It really helps out the channel. Thank you very much indeed for doing that. First of all, wanted to mention this. So as Slasher says, that's Rod Brislau last night, nearly 300,000 viewers for the North American Valorant Finals, more than half of that coming from the co-streams. So this is one of the big questions right now, the fact that a Call of Duty doesn't allow this to be done. So Shroud, I went on there like last night to have a look at it, and the main Valorant stream had like 50,000 viewers, but Shroud, who was just like co-streaming it, eventually just watching the matches, doing effectively like a watch party with his chat, he had like 150,000 viewers or something crazy. Now I know the CDL has kind of done this with Vikkstar. I know that like last year he like streamed a couple of the London matches as well, but this is really not something they allow. If you want to do like a watch party, you have to get like express permission, and you can't do it on Twitch because of the YouTube deal and all this type of stuff. So there are certainly some barriers in Call of Duty to having this happen, but you can imagine a world where you get like some of the big Call of Duty guys to be co-streaming the tournaments. I mean, what if you paid Nick Merckx an outrageous amount of money so he could co-stream the tourney? I mean, that would certainly bring so many new people into the CDL, and it's certainly something which should probably bolster the viewership in the long term. There's a lot of new people that could potentially come into the game if this was a thing, but seemingly the CDL don't necessarily want to do it. As he says, any esport not taking advantage of working with streamers' audiences while also increasing viewership is doing it wrong. And well, Riot Games seem to be doing something right over there. I'm not sure the CDL want to go down this route, but certainly something which seems to be working for them right now might be something to consider going forwards. Speaking of Valorant, then Clayset says this: shotguns would already be GA'd in Valorant if it was the Call of Duty scene. So yeah, apparently shotguns are a bit of an issue right now. I don't really know. I think even one of the pros was replying to this saying, I wish we actually did gentlemen's agreement then. But yeah, kind of a nice little crossover here between what we are going to talk about today. So clearly snaking has been an issue these past few weeks. I mean, Clayster says at the start of March right here, the fact that look, you can't really gentlemen's agreement it. We saw a couple of times yesterday. I always watch out if anyone's like snaking or anything, and it's sometimes tough to sell, right? Like sometimes you're laying down because you want to reload, you pop up behind a head glitch, and to the other guy it probably looks like you got snaked, but in reality you realistically you just stood up, right, and you just shot the guy. But if you do it repeatedly and over again, that's when the snaking issue becomes real. So if you're not sure what snaking is, I'll show a couple of clips here in just a second, but the idea being that if you effectively either crouch and stand up again and again and again behind a head glitch, or if you're doing it even more egregiously, is to lay down, just about lay down when your hand comes out, then stand up again, and do that repeatedly, then it makes you a very difficult target to kill, and it's honestly super frustrating to deal with, kind of a broken mechanic in the game. The way the movement mechanics work and the character models are kind of broken in that sense. Now, there are a couple of ways potentially to fix this. The idea would be that you had some sort of crouch cooldown. In Counter-Strike, for example, when you press your crouch button, if you do it more than like 2 times in a row, you all of a sudden start to get a significantly slow crouch, and therefore you can't just use this and abuse this repeatedly. But Clayster seems to think, look, at the end of the day, you can't really gentleman's agreement it, therefore just use it and abuse it as much as you can. And we have definitely seen it, players doing that. I saw this that someone posted on Reddit yesterday. The fact that Cellium's kind of warming up for his match right here by, you know, just crouching up and down in the spawn. Thought this is pretty funny. And of course, well, Cellium has been one of the key names that people talk about when they talk about snaking. It's certainly for good reason. He's done it for a while, but there are other names in, you know, in consideration as well. This from DiamondCon, this was their matchup against the OpTic Chicago guys at the Stage 1 Major, where DiamondCon very, you know, pretty significantly is snaking over towards this tires area right here. And this was a big question mark at the time. The fact that, okay, Clayster kind of said, look, you just use this and abuse this because kind of everyone's going to abuse it. I think even Zuma and I think it was actually on the pre-show a couple of days ago, Big Time was talking about it as well. Like back in the day, Modern Warfare 3 and other games like that, everyone used to do this stuff, and Zuma was effectively saying like, look, to the OpTic Chicago guys, if you're not abusing this, then well, you're potentially losing out on an advantage. But you know, it's very frustrating as a pro player to deal with anyone doing this, and I can understand why the pros effectively want it gone and GA'd out the game in some form or another, or fixed in some way or another. But there are some players who just they just do this regardless. It's just ingrained in into their nature. And well, Cellium, DiamondCon are other names like this, and this is well from Shotzzy's stream not too long ago, where you can see well, you can see the snake in the head glitch right there is indeed Cellium. So this is certainly a big question mark exactly what you do about this. I mean, this is, I have to mention this every time it comes up because it's just too funny. I'm sure this will be in the comment section below once again. This false narrative being pushed is nothing but lies. All I do every day is grind and try and improve as a player and work with my team to get better. That is all I will continue to do. And well, this is what happened on the Bakery podcast not too long ago. So Jacob, the coach of 100 Thieves at Los Angeles Thieves, goes on the podcast talking about a number of different things. First of all, his clear frustrations with snaking in its current state, right? The fact that, look, if you snake, he just F you, he just straight up says. But then he goes on to talk about the fact that, look, if snaking continues, there's certainly going to be some big question marks, and there's been some threats in the gentleman's agreement chat that they have with all the representatives of the team. The fact that, look, if this continues, then we're going to start breaking GAs or doing something pretty drastic. And well, who could this potentially be?
Snaking is lame. If you consistently, consciously snake, you.
Okay.
Like,
Okay.
That was GA'd for years when I was playing. Because
every opponent that you verse has the right to completely ignore GA and just do what they like, you know?
What?
Yeah.
It's actually funny you say that, because apparently, I'm not going to throw names under the bus, but apparently that was a conversation in the GA rep chat today, because to make the GAs, there's a Twitter group chat out there with one rep from every team. Apparently that was the conversation today. It's like, hey, if this snaking keeps up, we're going to start pulling out AK-47s, M4s, snipers.
Oh, baby,
smokes.
it's getting tasty.
So I'm not going to say who said that, but that's what I heard. So
Okay.
I think that's more so like a threat to hopefully get something done about snaking than a real, like, hey, we're actually playing AK-47s.
Yeah.
So we've seen a lot of weapons get GA'd so far this season, and I think we also saw Slasher say in the replies to the whole Cellium situation at the time, the fact that, look, we should just straight up blacklist FaZe as a result of this, but the problem is they're the best team in the game. It's pretty difficult to execute something like that, especially nowadays. But, well, maybe it's Slasher's involved, maybe some other players are involved as well. The idea that, like, if these kids keep snaking, we're going to do something about it, and we're going to start breaking gentlemen's agreements. It's not something that happens too often. If it does happen, it usually happens by accident that players break GAs. I think actually Huke did it in the first map against Seattle just a couple of days ago now, where he had the muzzle break on by accident, and well, he apologized for it, he took it off. It did also happen back in World War II. I think it was Clayster pulled out like the M1 Garand or something against some team, and that was GA'd. But I believe he certainly owned up to that situation. I think he even paid out some prize money to the guys he beat by breaking that gentleman's agreement. So these are some of the GA so far. The AK-47, of course, is gone. The other big one as of lately, as of course the XM4 is also gone. The AK-74U muzzles, the QBZ is still in the game for the present time, but a lot of things right now, a lot of weapons especially, those are really the big things that the pros have decided to GA. The question is, will anyone actually follow through on these threats, right? If Cellium, if Diamondcon, if some of these other guys that like snaking keep doing it on a regular occasion, are the guys actually going to start breaking out AKs in matches? I don't really know, but certainly the question mark is there, the fact that they're very frustrated with the situation. If it continues, they may at the very least think about doing so, because that would be absolute chaos, right? Imagine if someone starts snaking overly aggressively on some glitch or something, and the other team says, okay, screw it, we're pulling out XM4s, and out the XM4s come, and then the other team's like, okay, what's even going on here? Are we meant to pull out XM4s? Now they pull out XM4s, and then maybe an AK-47 comes into the mix, something crazy happens. I don't know. I mean, it would be chaos to watch. We saw it last year a number of times where players threatened to break GAs. There was the AUG, the AUG meta that came in towards the end of Modern Warfare, and the FaZe guys were practicing with it, they liked it, and right before an event, I think the teams decided, okay, we're going to GA the AUG, probably because FaZe were destroying every team with it in scrims, and FaZe were pretty frustrated, and they were threatening to break GA and say, look, screw you guys, we're just going to use it regardless. And that didn't end up happening. So often these threats to break GAs never come to fruition, but maybe it's only a matter of time, and indeed they do, if the whole snaking thing happens. But as I said, this past week at Stage 2, Week 1, didn't seem to be too much of an issue. There weren't too many clips coming out about it, but it's not something which is necessarily out of the question that players decide to do going forwards. And as Joey Nubsy says, actually, with Simp streaming last night, let's get this QBZ on its way, because the European Challengers and the APAC Challengers region has already GA'd the QBZ from play. Is it only a matter of time until it goes from the North American professional scene as well? And if that is the case, then, is it something which could potentially be brought out if snaking continues to kind of break the whole GA situation? Who really knows? I imagine that this meta stays as it is for at least this stage, but maybe things will change going forwards after that. Thought this was interesting for methods as well. One 1 week in challenge is already about a headbutt glass. Welcome, I do not belong here, says Methods, which may well be true, but unfortunately he finds himself in this spot. And what other team really needs a Methods right now? Like a slow assault rifle, a lot of teams have a slower assault rifle. They don't necessarily need a Methods in the game, and that's why it's so tough if you're a guy like Tom Gravity, right, who's been running the amateur scene in terms of main assault rifles for a number of years now, but just never got an opportunity in a team because how many teams actually need a main AR? And there's plenty of other main ARs out there. Waskin, for example, that didn't even get picked up this season, so difficult for a guy like Methods if he doesn't fit back into Toronto. Like, what team actually needs him, right? Especially given that Seattle, like, okay, their assault rifle line has been looking pretty good, and the majority of teams in the game, it's actually their SMG lines that are kind of the weakness, right? Maybe you could look at a team like the Minnesota Rokkr and say, okay, like, you know, accuracy maniac really hasn't been working out. Maybe Methods fits in there, but you know, contract arrangements might be an issue, and certainly like accuracy and attach have only just joined that team. They're kind of a duo package deal. I imagine they're not going anywhere anytime soon. That at least would be my perspective. But yeah, very much intrigued to hear your thoughts in the comment section below on what might happen to Methods going forwards, because they're pretty rough to see the situation he finds himself in. But on the other side of rough, of course, is Atlanta FaZe. And just the final thing to finish out the video, records are meant to be broken. At GG's Ultra, we take the series 3-0, now hold the title for the most consecutive wins, that being 10 in Call of Duty League history. I don't know like what the record is for series wins in the CWL or even like way back in the day, but in the CDL, the record I think was 9, maybe even also held by Atlanta FaZe last year. I think it was actually Florida Mutineers who had like a 9 series in a row victory count last season, but now Atlanta FaZe are up to 10 and don't look like they're going to be slowing down anytime soon. Just, well, such a scary team. We'll probably have to talk about this team in more detail in a couple of days' time because they're, yeah, going to be hard to stop for sure. Intrigued to hear your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did enjoy it, I'd greatly appreciate a like on the video. It really helps out the issue because I know you enjoyed this content. Other people like you may enjoy this content as well. And I've grown the competitive Call of Duty community. Thank you for watching as always. Take care. And I will see you next time.